Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the RedactCast. Today, I have two amazing people. I have Lindsay, my old hip hop teacher, and Brandon, the hip hop teacher I was always too scared to take. So, welcome, you two. Lindsay, who are you? What do you do? And what's your relationship to hip hop?
Oh, that's a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. I am a dancer, educator, dance scholar, choreographer. I'm currently a PhD candidate in critical dance studies at UC Riverside. My dissertation examines vibing in hip-hop freestyle communities as an alternative to a violently individuated subjecthood, which we could get into if anyone's interested about that. But that's my research. I teach, although not this semester, at Riverside City College in the dance program. How did I get into hip hop? What's my relationship to hip hop?
Yeah.
My first memories of hip hop come from my sister, who's almost 10 years older than I am. So when she was probably about high school aged, and I was in elementary school, I remember listening to like Boyz II Men, which is a little more R&B than hip hop, and learning the Running Man and the Roger Rabbit from her and doing that on the playground at school. So that's how I got into it. I was always drawn to the rhythm and the music that felt like you could move in a more organic way to them than like when I was very little and had done ballet. And so I was really drawn to that. And so that was my introduction to hip hop culture. And then I have delved deeper into the history and the community since then.
All right. And Brandon, who are you? What do you do? What is your relationship to hip hop?
I'm the talented Brandon J. I am a professor at UC Riverside, also a professor at Riverside Community College. Artistic director and founder of Envy Dance Company. Also professional dancer in many different styles, classical ballet, principal dancer with Inland Pacific Ballet Company. And yeah, man, and just your all-around entertainer, so to speak. And as far as my relationship to hip hop, I was born in it. I was born in the origins of it. I came up during the origins of hip hop back in the late 80s. It was hip hop found me more than I found hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was just that, you know what I mean? You know, as a person of hip hop culture, you know, before you find your lane, you dabble in all the elements of hip hop, as far as the graffiti and the writing and the emceeing and the DJing and the dancing. So I dabbled in all the other ones before I found the dancing, because the graffiti just wasn't working out for me. The emceeing, I mean, I got a few bars, but you know, the dancing really took off. So
okay,
yeah, that's my relationship with hip hop.
Gotcha. All right, so I wanted to start out just by asking, why do you guys think hip hop is like important? Like, what do you think is like the importance of hip hop as a whole? Well, we can start with Brandon.
Oh, I was gonna let Lindsay go first.
Oh, okay, Lindsay, go ahead.
A whole already answer to this, so you should go.
I already have a whole answer to this. Why hip hop is important?
You just did my class last week, giving your whole spiel about this.
Oh man, why isn't hip hop important right now? Hip hop is everywhere. Hip hop is one thing hip hop is a survivor. Hip hop first came out, nobody thought it would last for a long time. They thought it was just a fad, and many still do. And lo and behold, here we are now. You can't go anywhere without seeing hip hop. You can't turn on your TV without seeing hip hop. You can't walk down the street, go inside clothing stores. You can't look at us right now in the classroom. This was unheard of. You dig what I'm saying? To have hip hop inside the learning institution on the highest level of like universities, unheard of. You can't get around it. So hip hop is just important to just an important culture as any other culture. You know what I mean? Especially to those of us that come from the struggle, as we like to call it. You know what I mean? It's the music that preached to us more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just think it's just vital, and it ain't going nowhere. So you might as well embrace it.
All right. I like that. All right, Lindsay.
I think hip hop culture. God, there's so many things I want to say. I'm trying to figure out where to start. I think that it's about community and collectivity, but that like within that community, it values diversity. And I don't just mean of like demographics, although it does, but I think, you know, there's a lot of talk about individuality, and I think that sometimes gets misinterpreted when we look at hip hop, but it's still for you to find yourself in relation to this practice and to let yourself shine within that practice, and then be celebrated for what you are contributing, like what you have to offer. And I think that is something that we can all learn from outside of like not just the dance practice or not just emceeing. Like, it's a different way for us to be together and with each other and support each other, and like there's so much to learn from that.
I get you. You said you had a lot. I was like, I was gonna see if there was more.
Well, I out there in case that was good. Sometimes I ramble.
That's fine. Now, I know both of you, like you've both said, you've danced professionally. Like, in what regards have you done? Like, what was like your highlight of professional dancing to say? Either of you.
Dance with Brandon and his company, was his assistant until, sorry, there's some trash being picked up. I was until I went to grad school and then got a little bit overwhelmed by the workload. But we, a couple years ago, went on tour to Amarillo, Texas. So that was a pretty big deal. Having been a part of the company since he started it, to watch, not just watch, but be a part of the whole like evolution of the company to make it to that point where we were doing the tour, not just locally, but like nationally, was, I think, a pretty big deal.
Okay. What about you, Brandon?
The highlight of my hip hop dancing, actually, that would be the highlight of my particular hip hop dancing, being able to create a company and take that company from, birth that company, and then make it so that, put in the work alongside with all the dancers, and be able to go and tour and have somebody pay you to do this thing you love to do. Was probably one of the biggest highlights. And that's me. And I've danced for Whitney Houston. I've danced for Shaggy. I've danced for, you know what I mean? I've done gigs for Nike with Rihanna. But that was a personal high accomplishment for me.
Okay. What is the process of creating a dance company? Like what did you have to do to create it, and then eventually have it be touring like it was said?
Funny story. I did not want to start a dance company, to be honest with you. It happened. I'm a big preacher on the fact that just follow the path that's put in front of you, because you never know where it may take you. And it was right after I taught my first semester at Pomona College. where I first taught Lindsay in her undergrad. Okay. And I got a random call that said, "Hey, we heard about you. Do you happen to have a dance group? We doing a show out in Hermosa Beach and want to know if you got a group that would want to come perform." And I told him, "Hey, I don't have a group, but I can probably get some people together and, you know, come and do your show." Yeah. And that's exactly what I did. I just called a bunch of students that I just taught the previous semester, got them together and said, "Hey, man, I got to show you guys, want to come dance." And just before that, Lindsay had reached out to me with the email saying, "Hey, I'm looking to do some more dancing. If you know anything, let me know." And I was like, "Well, funny you should say that. I got an opportunity for it." And that's what I did. So I pulled them together, choreographed this piece. We performed the piece. The piece was a hit. And after the show, I was just like, "All right, you guys, thank you guys for doing this piece with me. I appreciate you." And they was all like, wait, what's next? I said, "Well, I'm about to go home. I don't know what y'all about to do. I'm gonna go home and get me some groceries, eat something real quick." And they're like, no, we want to do more of this. We want to dance more. We want to do, you know, more gigs like this. So from there, you know, it was, you know, I was like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? I'll put it together and, you know, make it work. But one thing I didn't want to do is I didn't want to have a dance crew, and it's no shade to the crews and the dance teams or anything like that. I just didn't want to structure it like that. I wanted to be a company, a professional company, and I wanted to hold it to that esteem. Yeah. So I wanted to be able to pick, choose, and refuse the kind of gigs that we did, so that we can get to that level and be seen and taken seriously on that dance company level, just like your ballet companies, just like your modern companies, you know what I mean? And that's how I kind of patterned this company off of Alvin Ailey dance company. So, you know, I looked at them in an all black company, but in ballet, I wanted to have that same respect as an Ailey company, and that's how I just went along with it. And just I've danced in companies before, I've trained that way, so I had all the tools to start my own company because that's how I came up dancing. So that was that. Choreographed it, brought people together, and everything just fell into place. Didn't ever have to pay for a space to rehearse in. The studio space was free to us, unlimited. You know what I mean? Everything just worked out so well. That's why I say you just walk the path that's put in front of you, because it was effortlessly that, you know, a lot of things came to us.
That's crazy. Man, that's crazy. It's funny because I've been saying stuff about like COVID, and a lot of people are saying like, you know, COVID's like the worst thing that's ever happened. And it's like really putting, you know, a lot that's going on. And I'm like, but there's a lot of like advantages to COVID. A lot of people are learning a lot about how technology can be used, a lot about how we can reach further because of COVID. COVID's forced us to change in a way that we never had to before. And I think it's the same kind of like dynamic. It's like now, like I've been learning like tech companies are looking more at remote workers being a more common thing because they're finding it's more productive, people are happier, jobs get done quicker, and it's hilarious. It's just something that we never would have seen unless, you know, it's kind of put in front of us. It's kind of a terrible thing, but there's a lot of good if you look at it. It's really funny. I do have a question from chat though. Can you guys recall your first dance gig and what it felt like?
Lindsay, I'll let you go.
Okay, well, my first professional dance gig was that one at Hermosa Beach that he just talked about. It was really exciting to get to I think for me personally, but I think for anyone who is really going to be invested in dance as a career, the performance is cool. Like, I love to get on stage. Brandon used to call me the Transformer because I'm a whole different person when I'm performing than my like nerdy, shy self in real life. But so that's like really exciting. But I think that's like one super small product that all this like other work and time and effort goes into. And I just love being in the process of like being with a group of people who ended up becoming family. Our company, like these are still some of the people that I'm closest to are from like the company. Spending that time and then like working on, I hate the word craft so much. And I know Brandon uses it, but like working, like just being there in the studio, dancing, learning choreography, even the stupid like times where you're doing formations, which like suck, but it still just feels so gratifying to get to do that and be in that space. So I know it was really exciting to be on stage, but that is like such a small part of my memory compared to us just getting to come together. I remember like we were in the downstairs studio at Pomona College. Like I remember being in that space. I remember us like trying on costumes that were for other people. The lab was like, I don't know, does this even fit me? It was just like exciting to get to like be a part of the creative process in different ways. Like some of it was already stuff he'd already choreographed, but like getting to participate in all of the process, I think is really more exciting to me than the product. As much as like, I love that time to get to be on stage, as much as it feels great to have people come up to you after the show. We were very popular in that show. The audience loved us. Some kid who also performed, who was a singer, I think, like took a picture with us. Like it was exciting. People like, but it was the whole, like, we went out and we had a meal after that. And then after all our rehearsals, we used to meet to rehearse like 9 to midnight. And then we'd go out and like eat as like a company family afterwards in the middle of the night. And I was still like living in LA, driving out to the IE to rehearse in Montclair, then like going back to work a full-time job during the day. So I was like getting no sleep, but it was just like that time to get to not just be with people that you love so much, but to get to do a thing that you love with people that you love. That is, I guess, not the first performance, but that's the part that sticks with me more than like, yeah, it was cool to do the performance. It was fun and really exciting, and we were popular, and that was great. But that is not enough to sustain you in this type of career. You really have to love the process of doing the dancing at all levels, like learning, practicing, cleaning, which most people don't like. I like cleaning. Like, I don't know that. So I guess this is a very rambly answer that maybe doesn't quite answer the question. Yeah. I don't know. It was the whole like making of the thing.
That's fine. Yeah. No, rambly answers are always the best answers. I have no problem with rambly answers. What about you, Brandon?
Laughing because he knows that I. Sorry.
My first professional gig, dancing gig. One, it was dope, and I don't know if you can consider it professional, because what makes it professional is when some people's, and let me rephrase that. In some people's definition of professional is getting paid, right?
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily always the case. But my first really big dance gig was me performing at Showtime at the Apollo in New York City, in Harlem, New York, with the dance company that I danced with in college. Okay. And that whole process was like nerve-wracking because we had to audition to be a part of the group. So it's like 12 dancers in the group, but only 6 got to perform. And then, but 7 made the cut. So the whole process, and it was a resilient one for me because we found out what 10 was gonna go and audition to be the 6. And I was the only freshman that made the 10. And then from there, we went through this rigorous rehearsal process. I mean, we were outside in the middle of the night, running, doing sprints on the track. People thought we was the track team because how we was rehearsing, but we knew we had to have high energy for those whatever minutes we were on that Apollo stage. And then you had, from the 10, you had to audition to be the 6th. But the 7th was the swing guy, was just the alternate guy, just in case somebody got hurt.
Yeah.
And I felt very confident going into that audition. And I didn't make it. I didn't make the 6th. I made the 7th guy. And I walked out of there very discouraged, and so discouraged that I guess the director saw it on my face, because I was very surprised that I didn't make it. And he called me later that day, and he explained to me the whole deal, and told me I had to be the 7th guy, and I had to come to every rehearsal still and do all the work. But it was very nerve-wracking because I knew I wasn't the 6th guy, and I'm doing all this work. So we got to the night before we left to New York. We had we rehearsed the night before we left, and I went up to the director and I said, hey, if we win, because if you win at Apollo, you do another show. You do it right then. Although on TV, it shows it as another week. And I said, if we win, can I do the 2nd show? He said, all right, I'll take a look at you. And we did the last rehearsal. I ran it. And after we did it, he looked over at me and just gave me a nice little nod like that, which was the thumbs up. So now I'm even more like anxious because we got to win so that I can get a chance to perform on this stage. And then we get there, we do the gig. The first 6 went up and they rocked the house. I mean, they killed it. And then when Steve Harvey was the host at this time. And once he announced us as the winners, it was my time up. Now here's the catch. Again, I was the only freshman. Everybody else that was in the group had been part of the group before. So what happened is the group decided in the green room before the 2nd show that they was going to change the routine to something that they had did before, but went to the same music so that the audience didn't see the same routine. So I was like, hold on, I don't know that routine. We've been rehearsing the one routine for the past 6 months. How y'all just gonna change the routine? So they was like, well, you just better learn it. So I had to learn a whole new routine in the green room right before we performed it on national television. And I did that. And what that performance did for me, and being able to do that, it boosted my confidence so high that I told myself there's nothing that I can't do in this genre. If I can do that, if I can accomplish that and overcome that, every audition I went into it with high confidence. Every gig that I did, you can't tell me what I can't do because I've already done the thing that most people would have ran away from. So
that performance is available on YouTube.
I will need that. I would like to see that performance. That sounds amazing. It seems like you kind of just have to be almost like have a different kind of mindset than a lot of people when it comes to like dance in general. You have to have that mindset of the grind is more important than the finish, and you have to have so much self-confidence going into that because I've done like the dance classes, but it's nothing compared to like the actual large performances. But even in dance classes, that like the weeks before when we're learning the choreography, you're like, I can't get this move. You can't just stop. You can't just like skip that move in the routine. You can't just say, I'm never gonna get there. You have to know that you can do it, and you have to push yourself to do it. Even if it's hard, even if it's back-breaking, even if you're like me and have a pole in your spine and your back can't bend, you gotta find a way to make just get loose with everything. And it's one of my favorite reasons that for why I kept coming back to hip hop at RCC was it was a workout. I enjoyed the workout part, but it was also pushing myself out of a comfort zone. It was really pushing myself to do something that I didn't think I could. I always thought like I was a mediocre dancer. Still think I'm a mediocre dancer, but I was surrounded by people who just kind of wanted to have fun with it and learn and grow together. And then whenever we did our midterm or whatever, and we have that cipher afterwards where everyone's kind of just jumping in, doing whatever, that freedom afterwards was always so enlightening and always brought me back and wanted me like keep going, like just finding out the more and more you can do with it. And I always love the fact too, especially with dance, where I could see someone do something, I go, all right, I want to do that, but I want to make it mine. And like changing it to make it yours. I know that's something Lindsay taught a lot in our class, was very much don't copy other people's dance moves. Make them your own. Make your own variations, because that's how hip hop grows, is it's variations on variations on variations. And so leading with that, what do you guys consider like some variations that you've done? Like what's something that you've created or like you own as something that you pulled out that you really loved?
Like our own variation of
a dance move, or just something even in life in general, something that like you can own as I've done this.
Okay, so the first thing I want to say is one of the ways that I like to think about hip hop that is coming off of what you just said, and I do structure my class specifically to create, I mean, that is part of hip hop culture, but I structure the class specifically to honor those things about hip hop culture. Like, you can figure this out, you got to work for it. Anyway, I think it's not about ownership. And I think that not everybody understands that. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's actually something that's really important about hip hop. Like, yes, it's important to acknowledge like the lineage of things, but if you think about it as not, I made this, it's mine, but rather like, here's this thing that I'm contributing to the culture so that the entire culture continues to grow. Mm-hmm. We're inspiring each other by like coming up with these new things. So I don't know if I really think about anything as like, what is mine? Yeah. Because everything is riff off of everything else that's come before. Other than, I guess, like the pieces of choreography, but even those, like I like to create with the dancers. So even that, like to what extent can I say that that's mine? And we're still also like, I need to acknowledge, especially as a white person, like none of this shit is mine. I'm in here as a visitor. So it all is here to be contribution. So I don't know. I guess even with choreography, like we're still building on things mm-hmm. that have come before us. So that's really hard for me.
That's okay. That was a great answer. I didn't think about the question before asking it, but that was a fantastic answer.
It's a good question. And I think like a lot of people would straight up be like, I created this. And a lot of people have straight up created mm-hmm. this, but also a lot of people think about things in a way that, yeah.
All right, Brandon, same question. Terrible question, but same exact question.
I'm gonna try to answer. I think I understand the question. I hope I answer it in the way that you asked it. So just talking about borrowing and taking things from the people before you, or you know, so that's something that I did. To create my own like aesthetic of movement. So I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan, right? And when people ask me who I train with, I tell them that I train with the actual artists that I look up to, because dance classes in hip hop really didn't exist when I was coming up, right? Mm-hmm. So I studied people like Michael Jackson, Fred Astaire, like from all different genres, Sammy Davis Jr., Gene Kelly. I mean, so many different types of people, from MC Hammer in hip hop, Kid and Play. But the thing about Michael Jackson, and one thing I'm not is like a Michael Jackson impersonator. I hate it. I don't like doing it ever. And I don't even like choreographing to Michael Jackson music. That's the high of respect I have. I'm not even going to choreograph to your music. All I want to do is just listen to it. But one thing I do like about Michael is his smoothness. anything he did was smooth, right? And it was like seamless and effortless. It came so natural. So I can't reinvent the moonwalk, but how can I take the way that he approaches every move that he does and apply it to what I do, my hip hop, and look and still have the same intensity, same energy, but look cool while I'm doing it. You dig what I'm saying? So that's what I took from the artists before me, like the Michael Jackson. That's the one thing I take and I hold on to from Michael Jackson. Take that coolness, that way, that approach, but just apply it to my style, my thing that I do. I hope that answered the question.
No, that was great. Actually, it leads me to another one. Also, just so you guys know, if you guys have questions you'd like to ask to each other or to me, feel free. Like I said, this is very open. It's just supposed to be very chill. But my question is, so you were saying like Michael Jackson, like you don't want to choreograph to it, but you just want to listen to it. What music is like that for both of you besides just Michael Jackson? Or like, is there anything that you'll be like, I want to listen to this all day, or but I do not want to dance to it, either because you don't want to touch it, you don't think you could like pay it the respect it's due or whatever, but like just that you'd rather listen to than dance to? Or better yet, listen to than choreograph to. Like dancing on your own is a different thing entirely.
I was gonna say the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is like, I think, my all-time favorite album. But then I did take a song from that and choreograph to it last time. And because I was like, I don't know, let me just try. I've been avoiding this entire album for so many years. And like, I know Brandon watched it and he was like, I don't know, that's a song that I wouldn't want to choreograph to after he saw the final piece. But most of that album I wouldn't touch. Most of the album I personally, as a white person, shouldn't touch. Anyway, but I did, like, because I worked collaboratively with the dancers and it wasn't just me like trying to choreograph every single beat by myself, there were just some parts of the song that I had like images come to mind and that we were able to create some of that. And so I had just had this like dope group of dancers that like came up with some really cool stuff that picked up a lot of the things that were happening in the music. So that one I felt, even though it wasn't Brandon's favorite, I actually liked the way that one came out, but I don't think I would probably touch any of that again.
Okay.
But it was cool to get to like experience what it was like after I'd been avoiding it. But yeah, I still don't. That's pretty hot. I was like, I don't know if I'm at that level touching Lauryn Hill, but then I did. So.
Okay. And what about you, Brandon?
Well, just to clarify.
Okay.
Wasn't that I didn't like it. It was dope what she did. Just wasn't something I would do. Just a personal thing. Yeah. But it was still dope. Off the Wall. Michael Jackson's Off the Wall album.
Okay.
My all-time favorite. Don't touch it. Again, when we talk about this thing that we listen to and don't want to, it's all Michael. And Janet, for that matter.
Okay.
To be honest with you. Rhythm Nation album, Michael Jackson Off the Wall album.
I also would not choreograph to Michael Jackson. And most people who I've seen that do choreograph to Michael Jackson and or Janet Jackson are straight up doing impersonations or actually just stealing the choreography from Janet Jackson's music video and reperforming it, which I don't know why anyone thinks that's fine because someone else choreographed that. So don't do that.
Don't do
be
that.
Inspired by, but don't steal other people's choreography and then present it as your own choreography.
There was a time where to get the bag, I had to do something of Michael Jackson's. And not that it was selling out, but I made a compromise. So the Emmy Dance Company some years ago did Riverside's Ghost Walk in downtown Riverside. And they brought me on to be the artistic director this time around. And technically, all they wanted me to do was reteach the Thriller dance, right? And audition and hire dancers from around the Riverside area. And that was a part of the grant, that they had to use dancers from the Riverside area. I said, okay, look, and I explained to them the same thing I explained to right here, is that that's not something I do. You know what I mean? That's not my choreography, and that's not something I do. I say, but I'll take this job on if you let me do this. Let me bring on my own dancers. I'll still audition the Riverside dancers, but let me bring in my own dancers and let us do two pieces to a piece that I choreographed. And it was actually way more than what they expected. She thought I was taking on more work, but there was no way I was just gonna take on a gig and just perform Michael Jackson's Thriller and nothing else. Like, I couldn't do it. So I did it. And I was so meticulous about it that I made sure that we did every step the way it was on the video, because a lot of people who do Thriller miss a lot of stuff. I made sure we did it the exact same way. So what we did was we ended up giving the people two performances for that little Ghost Walk festival. And the piece that I choreographed to Kanye West's Monster is in my top 5 of choreographies.
It's a really good piece
that I've ever choreographed.
Really good.
So what's your guys' top 1 that you've ever choreographed? Or top 3? Make it a little easier.
Brandon has way more choreography under his.
For me, it'll be the Kanye West Monster. One of the very first pieces that I choreographed for the company. It wasn't the first year that Lindsay came on, but the second class, Wall to Wall, Chris Brown's Wall to Wall.
That was the first year.
That was the second year.
Oh yeah.
And then a piece I just finished, another Kanye West montage of songs. It's like a 13 and some change minute piece, but I call it Father Stretch My Hands, and it's now like my top favorite piece.
Yeah, it's a really good piece.
All right.
I got to see that one performed by UCR students before I was a part of it, and like watching it every time. Even though I sat in on the rehearsals sometimes, I still cried every time I saw them do it. And then getting to be a part of it was very cool. My top ones that I've choreographed, I'm gonna give you. Okay, this one, I would do it. I wouldn't do this piece now, and there are things that I would change now. But way back, whenever "Say Ah" by Trey Songz came out, I choreographed that, and I got to choreograph it on the company, and we performed it. That was my choreographic debut. That piece came out like, it's not a piece that I would do again, but the way that the whole piece came together, like, and like the guy section, we had such dope dancers then. They like killed it. They did crazy, like we had them do like crazy jumps into like land on the ground. It was really dope. So that one, I still think it came out really well. And then my other favorite is one that I did with dancers at RCC that is called Graffiti on Corners, that I did in collaboration with, I had 3 dancers that I like just said I would do the show. I didn't really have a plan. Then I ended up with these 3 dancers that actually 2 dancers that I had worked with, and then another one that I hadn't worked with before, that I was like, I don't know, but since I have these dope dancers, why don't I try this thing that I've been saving this track but never knew what to do with it. So why don't we try to figure something out together? So I used a spoken word from a Lupe Fiasco album Aisha says. And trying to figure out how to choreograph to the spoken word and pull out the rhythm of it, and to still make it feel like musical without any rhythm track. Like there was no music track, it was just the spoken word. Working with those 3 dancers, which is like such an amazing experience. They were so great at like experimenting and trying stuff together, and they offered a lot of ideas that we ended up keeping and using, and that I never could have come up with on my own without just playing with them in the studio. And that spoken word is about, you know, like racism and Islamophobia and all kinds. So it was a very serious issue that like serious issues that we were dealing with, and issues that mattered to the dancers, and we talked about what that meant to them. And then we like finished it and we're like, this needs something else, and then we like changed the music at the end and threw in a cypher and grabbed some other last minute other dancers, so it'd be more than 3. But yeah, that is something that I actually had submitted to a dance festival that I was going to re-envision with like a larger group of dancers and like turn it into like a real cypher at the end and like adjust some things. But then the whole festival got canceled, so that didn't end up happening. But yeah, but I'm really proud of that piece.
Okay. So I when we were doing hip hop at RCC, I know part of the class is like we have to make our own choreography for both the beginning and like the advanced stuff or an intermediate. And I always found that always like the hardest part. Like obviously learning moves that are given to you isn't always easy, but knowing what you have to work on and knowing that the person kind of giving you the choreography has an end vision, they know where it's going, they know where to take each step into each other. You know, it was always a lot easier than coming up with my own choreography. And I remember every time it was like, hey, you know, you have 3 weeks to make a choreography or whatever, I would be listening to the same song for that entire 3 weeks on my drive to school, on my drive home, in between classes. And I would just like, there was times where I would just get hard stuck. And one of the things that always helped me out, especially I remember in the second time I took beginner hip hop, one of the friends that I was that I kind of talked to, he was like, hey, have you ever done like this move? And he just showed me a move. And as he showed me the move, I thought of the song, I thought of the part where I was stuck, and it fit so perfectly. And I was like, okay, let me do that. And from there, I finished the rest of the choreography in like 2 days. And it was just like it. And so the question I had for you guys was, what is your process for when you you know, try to create a choreography? Obviously a lot of it's collaborative, but like, how do you guys go about it? How do you go past like that block, if you ever get a block, you know, kind of thing?
I always get blocked. I want to say one thing before I answer your question is the reason that I have you all do that, one, is not just so you can like see how hard choreography is, but because you're forced to spend that time with the music, to get to know the music really well, to think about what kind of movements go with the music after you use it really well, so that you have that experience doing that with lots of time to get them to know the music, so that then you can start to translate those skills to freestyling, where that has to happen a lot quicker. But once you get the time to like really like just spend this dedicated time with this song and like learn all of the little different pieces of it, then you gain those skills and it becomes easier to do faster. But I always get stuck. My process is also listen to this song on repeat forever, all day long, every day, until things come together. I always have, oh, it just started raining. I was like, what is that? I feel like I'm trying to let things come to me more than feel like I need to like rush to put stuff on the music. And so I always get sections where I get images of like what I want to happen, and then other sections where I'm like, I have no idea what's happening here. And so my process is to work with the parts that I know first, even if it's not in chronological order of the piece, and then come back to the sections that are harder for me to connect things. once I started working more collaboratively with the students, then I can play around, or the dancers, then I can play around with like a variety of, if there's some, like, sometimes I don't need to know all the steps, but part of what I did in that piece to Lauryn Hill was like, okay, you go figure out some movements to these 2 8 counts doing the rhythm, and you half of dancers figure out how you pick up all of the melody. And then we meshed together the movements so I didn't even have to come up with every single step. It was just figuring out some structures in which we could create together. And they were so dope that the movement came out like really awesome. But yeah, so sometimes, especially if I'm like, this just isn't gonna come only from me, and I think like hip hop is about community anyway, like let's play with this together and figure it out. Yeah.
I get you. All right, and Brandon?
I'm a little opposite, and I hardly ever get blocked, first of all. Just being honest.
Yeah.
And that's only because I'm music motivated, right? So when a song comes to me, and it's just dope, it's a song that I feel is just a dope song, and I'm a musician too, so I'm listening to a lot of different things in a song. It's not very hard. I don't think I've ever had like a creative block, but I have had songs that I wanted to create to and just couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I chalk it up as it's not time to create to that song just yet. And I'll just put that song, all right, this is just a favorite song that I like, because I go to create to it and nothing's happening. It ain't meant for me to create to that song. But then I'll pull that song back years later, and then something to happen. So I just let the universe have its way with it. You know what I mean? And just be like, all right, cool. But a lot of times, if I choose a song to create to, it's coming. It's like just naturally flowing. And one of the tools that I use is just, I just have different techniques of how I, create, as far as pulling from different elements of life. Every movement is a movement. I tell students that all the time when I tell them, all right, come up with your own 8 counts right here. And they just like, I'm like, no, it's just movement. Don't overthink it. Everything you do is movement. When you wake up in the morning and take that morning yawn, oh, that's a movement. So just pull from natural life, you know what I mean? And I do that a lot. Sports, animal play, like how animals move about in their aesthetic. Like I pull from every different type of thing, as well as listening to the music in every intricate beat in the song. And lyrics. So it's like all these different things that I'm thinking about at the same time. So it's hard. And I think for me, because I'm thinking of everything in that way, it's really, I don't really run into a lot of blocks because I have so many different things that I'm using.
I see. Yeah, what's it called? I remember when I was doing my choreography for intermediate, one of the things I noticed I was doing to myself was I tend to listen to the lyrics and try to choreograph to the lyrics more than the music. And so what I ended up having to do was, at a point, I downloaded the instrumental version of the song and just listened to that on repeat for a while, just so I could really focus, make sure, are my movements moving to the beat and the rhythm and, all the little instruments in the background, or am I just trying to dance to the lyrics? Because I feel like a lot of people get in that mindset of just trying to dance to the lyrics, because that's obviously the most prevalent part. A lot of people don't have that music mind where you're listening to the drums, the trumpet, the strings, you're listening to what you understand, which is words. And so I had to literally just remove words from the equation. I feel like it helped out a lot. It helped just kind of develop more natural moves, and then bringing the lyrics back and making slight adjustments to also compensate for the lyrics. The lyrics do have their own kind of beat to this on their own. And I feel like it's just an important composition to try to consider all of those different facets.
Yeah, I think that's really common, that a lot of people only focus on the lyrics, but I also see the opposite where people only dance to the bass line, only the bass line, not even all the rhythm section, just the bass line, but it has no relationship to what the song's about, and that's not good either.
Yeah.
So it's about all of the layers come together to make the song. You're dancing in conversation with this music. So it's not only the bass, and it doesn't mean that you can pick up every single layer on every single beat all the time, always, but what you're doing has to make sense in relation to what the song is about, but you also need to be picking up the musicality of all of those layers. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes you know, what you did is, you know what I mean, a common thing. Sometimes you have to eliminate one thing to heighten the other senses. You see what I'm saying? And one thing I did when I first started creating choreography, I stopped watching music videos. I didn't want to be influenced. When I go to create to this song, I don't want to be influenced by what the music video did. So I had stopped. I haven't watched a music video in over 15 years now. Not a one.
I see. But that brings up a point, like, because today, you know, TikTok and all that stuff, it's very, very prevalent where like one person will do a dance move, then hundreds of thousands will try to just do that same dance move, and that's like the only thing you'll see online for a long time. What is your opinion on that? What are your thoughts on like those kind of things?
About TikTok, I avoided it for a really long time, and then when we started going remote, I was like, you know what, let me check out what this is about. And I think there are some really cool things, like there's a lot of like intergenerational, like moms are dancing with their kids in the house, and like you're dancing with your grandparents, and like I also saw a lot of like super dope like cultural representation, like you're dancing in your regalia of like repping whatever cultural practice you are a part of. And that's really dope. But I think that this lack of understanding of cultural values, like these moves, it's not just about a shape that you make. That's not what hip hop is about. Like you need to connect with the feeling of the music. You need to connect with like, it's more than a shape. Africanist aesthetics are about process, not product. Like, not that the product doesn't matter, that doesn't mean you can't just do whatever the crap you want, but how you do a thing is as important as the thing that you're doing. And so to watch all these challenges where everyone is doing the same four moves regardless of the music, even if you put them in different orders, like kills me. Like I'm gonna need some more creativity. I'm gonna need like us to think about the movements in relation to the music. It's so, and then like the whole larger conversation about cultural appropriation, like we need to have a whole conversation about that in relation to TikTok, because people don't know where the stuff is coming from or what it's about. Making all the white girls famous, even though they're not the ones that came up with the challenges. Like there's so many issues there, but what I see is so much of this just lack of understanding of the cultural values of all the parts that go into a movement, and dancing is not a shape. That's not how these dance practices work at all. And then I also think that, I'm gonna go on a whole different tangent. I'll stop.
We'll come
What do
back.
I think about TikTok? Is that the question?
Well, how do you feel about like how social media is kind of pushing a like uniform dance moves, and like, you know, one person creating, and then the bigger names, the more famous people are the ones everyone's looking to. No one looks for like where it came from or what it stemmed from, but very much just, hey, look, cool dance, and then doing that a million times and everyone blowing up about it like it's the best thing ever.
Well, I only see a lot of it, the little bit that I do see by chance, right? By mistake. Because I'm not on TikToks at all, even though I've had several people ask me, Brandon, why don't you do a TikTok challenge? Do a TikTok challenge, Brandon. Why don't you do it? You can do one.
There are a couple of Miami ones though.
And to be honest with you, I saw the Miami one, and I put on Facebook, should I do this Miami challenge? Because I brought the Miami movement to California. You know what I mean? And people are like, you should have been did it, Brandon. Of course you should. But I'm just not one to be a part of those kind of fads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think hey, what gets people moving? It's just like Lindsay was saying, I think it's dope that you get these parents and kids doing things together, man, and maybe even opening their eyes to something that they probably would have not even gave any attention to at all. That's dope, you know what I mean? Just give it up to where it come from, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Give it up to that person or give it up to the culture. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just do that. But other than that, that's my extent of.
That's fair.
I think one of the other things, and Brandon and I have talked about this a lot. This is the tangent I was going to go on, but it does feel related. That I think like YouTube and all these like social media platforms, that there's this instant gratification of I post this video and I'm gonna get all these likes. And I was thinking about this when we were talking about like, I like the performance, but you gotta like all of this stuff leading up to the performance as much, if not more than the performance, because the performances are few and far between if you are really in this career. There's a whole lot of rehearsals more than actual performances. And so I think so many people are now like, but I'm so used to getting all these likes right away when I post my video that it's just about the look. I want to look good when I make this product, and not having this like deep investment in the practice. And the other thing about that is all those people who are liking I was about to say a bad word. All the people who are liking your stuff on the internet.
We are allowed to swear here.
Really the people who know what it's supposed to look like or not. Mm-hmm. So you feel like you're dope because you got these like 4,000 likes from a whole bunch of people who don't know anything about any of this. And you're looking all kinds of crazy and posting that on social media. Like, I wouldn't be showing anyone that if I were you. Like, you can't see that. Like, that's your job as a dancer. It's like, you should see that. And that's not to say, like, you should still get celebrated for your process along the way. But I don't think that's the desire of a lot of these people. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah. Like, we're all coming from somewhere. We're all always still improving. That's fine. You don't need to wait until everything is perfect to share it. But if the only reason you're doing that is to be told how great you are all the time, like, these are not the people who have the knowledge to be telling you that is fantastic or not.
I mean, I think it just, because as you're talking about it, it makes me think of just your internet sensations, right? Yep. And the people that came before you that put in the work, like just put in the work, you know what I mean? And some pride into it. Like, I'm also a stand-up comic. So then it just made me think about all those people who became a success or famous from like their YouTube videos and being funny as comedians, but then you have these, but never stepped foot in an actual comedy club and touch the mic and in front of an audience and doing their thing, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think it's kind of like the same thing, just as she says, like, really be invested. Don't just think about these 4 moves and getting the likes. Like, show a little more respect by, actually just getting really invested in the culture.
Exactly. I agree. And like, as you're on a podcast right now on a social media platform, I'm someone, right now we have 4 viewers. We had like up to 10 today, and I'm like, yeah, let's go. It's just like it's a slow process, I've noticed, and the self-motivation and like I felt like the most I've had to find a way to like love what I'm doing, because I've noticed on days like if I'm playing a game that I really don't like, I'll just be like, everything will get to me more. I'll be like, man, why don't I have more viewers? I'm playing this game for viewers. Why don't I have more? And I'm just like, that's not the mindset I should be having going into this. And I feel like that's the mindset a lot of people who are doing social media is like, that's the mindset they have right now is, oh, let me do this. I'll be cool if I do this. And then if it doesn't work out, they get angry because it didn't work out. And I had a question for you guys, both being teachers, have you noticed a difference in students who are coming to you to learn hip hop since social media became more of a prevalent thing, like over the last 4 or 5 years where it kind of really blew up?
I mean, before that, I was teaching in studio spaces, not schools, and that's really different because the people I was teaching were mostly a lot younger. Mm-hmm. and you don't necessarily have the same consistent group for like a dedicated period of time. But I think even then there was still like a lot of like teenagers and like maybe even, I don't know, younger than, I don't know. But that like it was also about, let me record this and put it on the internet. So I know back in my day, we did not have that like that. Like Facebook started, I'm about to age myself. Facebook started while I was in college as an undergrad. And when it started, like it was only for people at colleges, like you had to have an EDU. But it wasn't the same, like record everything all day long. It was just like to be in contact with people that you already knew. Mm-hmm. Which is why I still don't understand social media. But I think even when our company started, like that was 2007. Yeah. That was still like, yeah, social media was going, but I don't think it was at the same level like that. Not the first year, but our second year of dancers that came in, that was the core group that we had for like a solid period of time. That was a group that like became family, that I like we were rehearsing like 3 times a week for like 3 hours in the middle of the night. We weren't getting paid for all our rehearsal time. We were just there because we wanted to have this opportunity to dance. And yes, people wanted to do performances, but like there was so much rehearsal time that like was happening in between. And I feel like what I see in a lot of classes now is like, I need you to get out of, why are you recording this? You just learned it. Why would you even want to post that? Like, why would you want to post? You just learned it. Like, you haven't even worked on it yet. To get your best version of it, why would you want to show that to people immediately? Yeah. And I feel like there's even been like, there was that one time someone said something in class and I kind of snapped back at her, but I was like, I don't know if you were in that class, but that there is this desire for instant gratification that I think has been heightened in relationship to social media, that happens in class, that everyone wants to record afterwards, and not just to like take the video home and to practice. You just want to post this. Mm-hmm. That's not. And then you're not even waiting until you finish learning it. Like you you haven't even worked on it to look good yet. Like, why would you want to show people that? I would be embarrassed. I was the kind of person who, even when I was going to take Brandon's classes and I was the only person who knew all the choreography because I'd already been assisting him, I wasn't standing up in the front. I would go be in the back corner because I already know this. So I'm just here to work on perfecting it. I'm not here to show off to you that I know this, because of course I should know it better than you because I already know it and you don't. Like, I'm here for my own practice. Mm-hmm. And I don't, like, there's still some people obviously who are, but I think a lot of people are just like, no, this is how you get famous. I'm gonna be famous now. Like, you're not gonna be famous looking like that. You gotta put the work in.
Yeah, I second all of that. I mean, everybody's trying to get to the bag. Period. And on the social media thing, you know, everybody's trying to get to the bag. And some people need to find a different way to get to the bag. You know what I mean? Everybody don't need to get to the bag using dance and hip hop. And the art of perfection, as she's putting it, is lost right now. Like, nobody wants to perfect it first. But do I see a difference in the classroom? Yeah, especially when students come to me and be like, yo, let's do that one dance. Like, don't come to me and talk about that one dance. We're not doing, I don't know what one dance you're talking about. Oh, you know, the one they do on social media, did this song. Nah, we're not doing that. We're going to do something way better if you just give me a chance to show it to you. So, yeah.
They ask you to teach them TikTok dances?
Oh, what? Yeah. I've had that. Or whatever dance move is happening at that time. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, that's one of the other things people don't understand is you can't just have a one move. You need to know how to deploy that one move in the midst of while you're freestyling and in relationship to the music. You can't only just on repeat and also off beat. Like, that's not dancing. That's not how this works. You can use it if it makes sense in that moment with the music, but it needs to be integrated, and you should like pull it off in some like surprise that we don't see it coming. I get so many people like walk in and then just walk away like, no, that is no.
Yeah, I'm sad. I have friends who are that exact people who will come in, like, I will hang out and like we'll be like grooving to a song and they'll just do that on repeat. I'm just like, so much more you could be doing. You're not even on rhythm. You're just doing it.
I think that when that's the only exposure you have is like super short videos in TikTok where you only see these like 4 moves and they are just done wherever, and you're maybe watching them being done by people who aren't particularly good at them. You don't have the context of having been at a club where you're watching people like dance socially and then also throw that in. But you can, I don't even know what the new whatever thing is popular now, but like or if you've been to a cypher where you see what people actually do, that you feel like you're a part of this thing, but you're getting this like jacked up vision of what this like whole huge like luscious culture, and you think this one move is all of that, and that's like, because that's all you're seeing.
And like from my perspective, someone who's like, I'm trying to kind of make this whole thing a career eventually. I like the entertainment factor of it. I like being able to interact with people. But looking at it like with YouTube especially, I've noticed that the way people get attention and people are recommending if you want to grow quickly is to create shorter content. They're saying if your video, you want to create, the big thing on YouTube right now are their YouTube shorts, which are minute maximum videos that are like the horizontal or the vertical camera kind of content. And it's create something under a minute, post it, and it's almost guaranteed to get like 1,000 views, up to hundreds of thousands of views, like just because of how YouTube's pushing it. And it's because TikTok's the same kind of formula. Instagram is slowly becoming that more same kind of formula. And I feel like that desire to create the shorter form content to see the value you're assigning it is also making the people watching it then go, oh, okay, so I don't need to know a lot, I just need to know a minute's worth of material, if that. Like if I can create a dance in 7 seconds, people are gonna like it, so maybe I should just not even, like you said, not even master that 7 seconds, just as long as I can perform that 7 seconds to where someone will go, oh, that's cool, let me show so-and-so the 7 seconds. That's the explosion.
Yeah.
What do you think that does to society?
Oh, I have noticed our attention span is terrible. Our attention spans are the worst. I tell people all the time, I absolutely dislike 90% of my generation because we cannot focus on something without going to our phones. I'm a nerd. I love Dungeons and Dragons. I love playing D&D with my friends. D&D's like a 3-hour session, and I have to take my friends' phones so they don't go on Instagram during the 6-second break between their turn and the next person's turn. I'm like, it hurts me, but I get it's kind of just, it's what is being pushed by society, and it shouldn't be, and I hate it.
It's so bad. Even in the classrooms, like I've basically given up on trying to like, that used to be one of my like, you do not touch your phone while you were in my class, especially in a lecture class. You're sitting at your desk and I'm talking with you and you're just looking at what the crap. Like at least in a dance class, like that shouldn't be on the floor while we're moving. Yeah. But even I used to try to be like, I don't even want you checking it during water break because that's not long, and I'd rather like go drink your water, come back. Everyone immediately, I gave up. Like there is no way to try to stop people from getting on their phones. And I use my phone a lot, but like I can not look at it while I'm in a class for an hour and a half or an hour 15 minutes. And especially even in like a freaking lecture class, you're at your desk. You're trying to hide, like I can see you. I'm not an idiot. Like I already know this material, So like, why am I having this conversation? It's like very difficult.
Yeah.
Like, but also like, you're not interested in any of this knowledge that we're doing here? We're doing knowledge. You can't even like pull yourself away. It's very hard. Bad. It's not good. Which makes me think about something related. No, it's not related. It's fine. I'll save it.
Fair enough. But yeah, no, I 100% see, and it hurts me too, because I'm noticing it's not just my generation. Like I'm 22, so I got like my 23, 24-year-old friends, my 21, 20-year-old friends. They're all that same way. But then I have my sister who's 15 now, and she's so much more engrossed in it. And I'm like, it's only getting worse. Like you were saying, like, you know, oh yeah, you know, the parents dancing with the kids on TikTok and stuff. I see the side of it where my sister is like begging my mom every single day, like, hey, let's do this TikTok dance. Hey, let's do this TikTok dance. Hey, let's do this TikTok dance. And I'm just like, please. And then she's like, hey, you should get a TikTok. And I'm like, because of you? No, I don't want that. I want to stay as far away from that as possible. Like, I have an Instagram. I was doing like mixology stuff on Instagram for a bit. And then I was like, I just want to make drinks. I don't really care about sharing the process I go through to make the drinks. If a friend wants a drink, come over, I'll make you a drink, kind of thing. But like, I don't get the Instagram, the TikToks, the even like Facebook, that like want of all those followers to look at a snippet of your life. I like doing this like Twitch live streaming thing, because it's very much I'm talking with people. They come in, we have a conversation, they stick around for an hour, 2 hours, and we're just talking. And it's fun. You get to learn a lot about people, a lot of different places. Like, I get to learn about people in Canada and like Quebec and what happens there. Something I never would have gotten unless I got the chance to talk to someone from there. But you don't get that on social media. You don't get that on YouTube, Instagram. You get the one sentence comments occasionally, and that's it. I feel like there's that just a huge disconnect that people are very okay with.
But I will say that hip hop culture, like legit hip hop culture, has figured out a way to utilize social media, especially during quarantine, during the pandemic, to create community in a way that so many people are missing. Like DJ D Nice, like Club Quarantine, like, because he does it as a live stream, that and people were coming in and it felt like a club. And I will let Brandon talk more about that because he's the one that put me on that. But also like the versus battles, like as live streams, so many people are coming in and they're commenting and people are actually like interacting with each other. This is like a cultural experience that people are experiencing this event together as a community. So there are ways that it can be used, especially during quarantine, to bring people together, but that's not what, and I think hip hop was able to do that because hip hop has always been about community. So they understood how to use it in that certain way, but that's not where so many people are coming from.
Yeah. And what's it called? Like you're saying, like I 100% agree. Just the live experience, because not only, like, even if, you know, the person who's putting on the live stream, even if they can't talk to you because they're busy DJing or busy singing or whatever, putting on the performance, you still have everyone else that's watching it talking to one another, chatting with one another, and you still get a large social experience. So even if, you know, the like, it's the same like in normal performing, you can't talk with the person on stage, you can still vibe with everyone in the audience though. And I feel like even that is better than the culture we're putting with YouTube, where it's like the comments is like, oh yeah, I like that, that's really cool, I like this one move, and you have 10, 20, 50 other people saying the same words, but none of them talking to each other. It's just like I was saying, like the disconnect is the problem. And the live atmospheres don't have as much disconnect. That's where I've been finding value here and enjoying it. Also, I get to do things like this where I talk to people who I find very smart, and I can just have conversations about smart things with, and it's fantastic. So I feel smarter afterwards. I feel like also with this generation, there's a problem with wanting to learn versus wanting to know.
That was the other thing I was gonna say. whenever there's like a new thing that I've noticed in class, that anytime I'm like introduce a new thing that people need to work on, there's automatic groans. Like there's just any type of work, even in a class that you're taking by choice, that is fun.
Mm-hmm.
If I can be so my own class is fun. But that your immediate reaction to having to do anything is to be disgusted just at the idea of work is a problem. And like, and part of that is like, maybe the education you came up in wasn't about like critical thinking and like engaging in like knowledge building, and it was just memorizing. But okay, but now you've been in my class for a while and you know that's not what this is about. You need to get that automatic reaction out of your system. And I've started calling out classes because that's not cute. If you are, and even though, yeah, it's a dance class, yeah, it's fun, but we're still here to like build and cultivate knowledge together. Like, why are you here if you're not trying to learn anything new or groaning because something's hard? Like, welcome. I gave it to you hard. It's hard on purpose so that you can practice and learn it. If I only taught you stuff you already knew how to do, I would not be doing my job.
Right.
But it's like, it's not good, that lack of wanting to work for anything ever, even a thing that you enjoy, is not good.
Yeah.
And I think it hurts them too, because once you leave, you've been so used to that as a student through high school, and then you expecting that in college. Then once they leave college, they're in for a rude awakening, because you're gonna have to work. You can't escape the work all your life. You're gonna have to like build that tolerance to like, or that need to want to learn how to do this thing. Like everything, I think with the social media, everybody's just used to these microwave results. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just, that's just not the way the real world works. And I just think that us as and I say us, not just Lindsay and I, but us as professors in the learning institution together, no matter what the subject is, we have to do more to break that habit. You know what I mean? And expose them to the work of things.
Mm-hmm. And I've been noticing that.
Bad.
Oh, say again, Lindsay?
Work isn't always bad.
No.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's exploitative and then it's bad, but sometimes I just want you to learn things that you like.
Yeah. And it's funny how like common it is. As I've been talking to some of my old professors, like I said, I interviewed one my first week for the podcast. I talk to another every once in a while, and it's all like consistently like, yeah, there's so many people who come to my class willingly and then have a problem when I assign anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that is weird, because there have been classes I go to and I'm like, I hate this class, or I don't like the teacher, so I will drop and then take a different class. I don't get how people can go into the class, stay in the class, be like 12 weeks in the class and still have a problem when stuff's happening that happened the 6th week. It's just like, where's it stemming from? Like, I just don't get it.
I also feel like even in my class, like, I know you don't even really mean that, because you're about to have fun, practicing whatever thing I'm asking you to practice. So it's just like this automatic gut reaction of being asked to do something. And that's not good, because these aren't even like major assignments, just like, I want you to go like spend the next 5 minutes working on something in class. And people are like, oh, I have to figure out this step. Oh, you're right. I should just let you not ever learn how to do anything. Like, I don't, it's, and then when I call them out, they're like, oh yeah, you're right. But then why you need to catch that. That's not a good automatic reaction to have.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power, y'all.
No, really. And I have a question for you guys. How do you guys feel like this is going to affect hip hop and just dance in general in the future? Like with this, like obviously, you know, generations are going to fade, new generations are going to come up. Where do you think this is heading currently?
You want me to go?
Yeah.
I think there's always going to be a subdivision. Even right now, there's a subdivision. Because you still got, as far as hip hop goes, you still have your old heads in hip hop who are still movers and shakers of the culture. You dig what I'm saying? So you're gonna still have what hip hop is and should be, but then with this new generation, you're gonna have that subdivision of what they think it is. You know what I mean? And and have that effect to it. But do I think what's happening now with the social media will affect hip hop as a whole? Personally, nah, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Like, hip hop culture is fine. There's still real battles happening all the time. There's still real ciphers happening all the time. People who are invested in the culture are invested in the culture, and they're gonna keep it going. That is not under threat, but there is gonna be this larger faction of people who have this just really gross misunderstanding of what hip hop culture is, looks like, is about. But that's not gonna stop hip hop from being hip hop. But even things like, So You Think You Can Dance, because now this entire generation has come up watching the show, like, you see this, like, all the dances are pretty short. They're not as short as TikTok, but they are pretty short compared to, like, you go to like a dance company, you might see like a 20-minute piece. You're gonna see like a 3-minute piece on So You Think You Can Dance that's set up. It's always set up in a particular kind of way. It's always choreographed. It's always like structured in certain ways that people, if that is your main relationship with dance, you get an understanding that this is how dance works. This is what it looks like. These are the parameters in which it exists. And it's very, very narrow. And so already those students are coming into college and they want this one thing that they've seen on TV or on social media. And it's like, dance is a whole lot more than this. And I feel like even in a hip hop class, especially if all you know are a handful of Drake videos and nothing else about the culture, like, when I try to get you to do other things or to try to expand your knowledge about, like, why are you choreographing steps without listening to the music, when I explicitly told you that the point of this assignment is to look like you are the music? Why are you just putting steps together without listening to the music? What are you doing? That people have gotten offended that I only think hip hop is one, like, dance can only be one thing. It's like, no, I'm trying to teach you what this culture is about, but you came in thinking that you already know because you danced with a urban choreo crew one time that taught you this misunderstanding of hip hop, and so you think I don't know what I'm talking about because you just want to do this one thing you already knew and not be exposed to new ideas. Doesn't mean you can't also do that. It does mean that if you go to an actual hip hop space, people are going to look at you crazy, but I need you to understand that what you're doing is not the value of the culture. That's literally my job as your teacher.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then my brain's frying for some reason. I had a question. It's just gone. Well, while I think of the question, what is your guys' favorite thing to do when you're on your own, like, dance-wise? Like, what moves do you bust out when you're on your own? Do you dance on your own time, like, just for fun? I don't know how hip-hop teachers have fun. Look, it's a question I got. It was my fallback question if I needed to ask it.
Yes, but I would prefer to, like, go be at, like, in a social space with other people than just dancing alone in my living room. And that's not necessarily for me about, like, being in a battle or a cypher. That's just like, we're at a club and there's people on a dance floor, like, all kinds of different, like, just social dancing. Like, I missed that in quarantine. But that it's not, and I think that's a really important aspect of hip-hop culture too, is just like that communal being in just social dancing, not as always like everyone's showing off their hottest moves. Like, no, these are just regular folks dancing together to the music in a shared space.
Yeah.
But yes, I also sometimes play music and dance.
Look, I'm sorry. It was a terrible question. I thought of my actual question.
Let Brandon answer.
Yeah, no, I know. I was gonna have Brandon answer first.
Did you write it down? Because I want you to ask the question while it's fresh in your mind. If you need to ask.
No, go ahead. I got it. You're good. You're good. Go ahead.
I mean, I'm the same. I don't really like dance by myself, but when people ask me what's your favorite type of dance, of course I always say hip hop. But next to hip hop is social dancing. Mm-hmm. So any type of any form of dance where I can dance with another person is always my favorite. Like I'm huge on country line dancing and two-stepping, Chicago stepping, like any form of Latin dance. Like I just like dancing with someone. So I'm a huge social dance fan.
Okay. All right. So my question was, do you feel like a lot of, or part of the lack of like desire to learn instead of just know things is online? When you see these videos, no one talks about the time they put in to create the move. No one talks about the time they put into like do the choreography when they go on So You Think You Can Dance or America's Got Talent or whatever. They just talk about like, oh yeah, no, we've known each other for like, we're best friends, we just hang out in the studio. Like they don't talk about the grind that is the buildup. So a lot of people who see that just have the assumption that it's easy, or like they don't have to put in work to, like they don't have to perfect, they just have to do. Do you think that there's a correlation between those two?
I think that makes sense. But I also think that if you saw something on the internet that you thought was cool enough, you would leave the internet and go find out about it elsewhere. Like, go, where are people actually dancing together? So even if they don't tell you in this video, if you went, like if you were like, oh, hip hop seems really dope, and then you were like, let me go find out more about it, and you read about the history or like watch documentaries about the history, and then you like went, maybe not during COVID, and then you like found out where some battles or sessions are happening, and you see what people are actually doing, and if you go then try to participate, you would find out that does not come easily. So I think what you're saying does make sense, but I also think like, where is your own desire to learn more beyond that?
What about you, Brandon?
I agree, but I also think that it depends on where you're seeing this thing. So when you're talking about like, So You Think You Can Dance and America's Got Talent and all that stuff, well, that's television, and television is set up to not, give you all that information, even if you say it, right? Because they only have so much airtime. So just like Lindsay was saying, like research it. That's why now, as far as individuals who are doing like their own little TikTok and YouTube minute stuff, I mean, I just would think common sense would tell me that it ain't take weeks for them to come up with this little thing. But yeah, so that's why I'm big on advising my students to go watch this documentary. You know what I mean? Like, cause I'm a huge, especially when it comes to hip hop, I'm a huge hip hop documentary watcher. You know what I mean? I love watching these documentaries. And I just finished one on Hulu, actually, Hip Hop Uncovered. And these documentaries, like when you watch them, it'll tell you about that dedication, that struggle, what it took, how long it took to get to this point. And all the ones that I had advised people to go watch, they come back to me and be like, oh my God, I learned so much. I didn't know this and I didn't know that. So it's really good that these documentaries are out there so that, people can learn, which is another reason why, that part of the generation, the social media will never overwhelm the culture of hip hop, because we have so many things that's just out there for you to watch and see and be a part of and taking control of.
And it also seems like it's not just like with, dance and anything, but it also seems like that whole facet applies to everything. With like even the election a few years ago, a lot of people didn't want to fact check anything. a lot of people just heard something and were like, yep, that's true. It was said by a person who's high up, so it has to be true. And I feel like that's extremely common, even for like a class. I've noticed like in classes, if a teacher I'm taking doesn't really know what he's talking about, and there's a point where like you respect your teacher, but I've had teachers be like, they say something like an English teacher said something, and I was like, that seems a little off. So I went and I did my research and looked it up. I went to him the next day. I was like, hey, you know, you said this wasn't right. I wanted to like see what you meant, if like you like misunderstood it. And he was like, oh yeah, actually, like I never really looked into this whole thing, you know, I just kind of said. And I was like, you are a teacher, so 90% of this class is just going to believe you. They're gonna write down what you say, they're gonna take the test on it, they're gonna ingrain that. And that's a problem if the people that are supposed to know don't.
Yes, that is disgusting. And also, but I also think that one of the things that I think needs to be challenged about those spaces too is like, yeah, I know some stuff. I have knowledge to offer you, but I also am transparent about like, I'm not an expert on everything ever. And just because I am in the like educator space, like we're all bringing knowledge to the table. And if I don't know something, I straight up say that to the students. I don't think that is like, makes you look bad as a teacher to be honest about your humanity. No one knows everything about everything. Like, but I will also say I will go find out and bring back some information to you, and finding out means like actual legit research. But I do think that lack of looking into stuff is both coming from what you said, but I think also especially the generation of students coming up under No Child Left Behind, and also like, you know, larger systemic racism and general problems with education. A lot of students are not being given any type of critical thinking as part of their educational process, and that's really a problem. And I thought about that a lot in relation to like the last 4 years and the like campaigns prior to the election before that. Like these, if you had any legitimate critical thinking skills, you would hear these things and know like, that sounds real off. And also to know that like, okay, if this version of this story is only coming from particular news sources, but all the rest of the media is telling a different story, there's a reason for that. And you need to figure out what that reason is. And it's probably not just because liberal media, which is false. But but that's something like I'm teaching right now as I was gonna say as a TA, but screw that. I'm the teacher. They just treat me as a TA. But I'm teaching beginning composition English, like writing. And one of the assignments requires them to do very minimal research. And we had a conversation about like, here's how you check to see if a source is legit. Here's some things you can look for. Like, is it an opinion article or is it hard news? Click on this person's bio. Does this person have any like actual relevant knowledge basis to be talking about this particular topic? If someone is a fashion writer, no digs at fashion, that's important too. But if you're a fashion journalist who suddenly has an opinion about police brutality, like based on what? Is it just opinion based on your own racism? Or have you done any like legitimate historical background? Like, but all of the like having to teach these skills, because people don't like, you just see something that looks like it's from a publication and you just assume, well, this must be legit. But like a lot of these things that look legit, when we all have access, and I say we all, but that's not really equal. We all have access to the internet to post whatever feelings or beliefs. Is this just my Uncle Joe ranting on the internet, but he wrote it in a blog that looks like it's real? Or is it someone like, is this a like scholar of African-American history versus my racist Uncle Joe, like just being racist? Like those are not equal opinions, because they are not based on the same legitimate information. And so I think that I think there's so much power when you are in a teaching role that you need to be explicit about your own biases. You need to be explicit about what you know or don't know. Don't freaking lie. And then like and I don't think it's this like people's fault that education was designed specifically to memorize and regurgitate information. With that, critical thinking has been removed as a means of control, y'all. But those are skills that people aren't practicing, and you need to practice them. That was a whole rant, but
somebody's fault. No, I wouldn't say it's not it's somebody's fault, because somebody changed the school system.
Yeah.
Well, I meant, and it's not like the students.
Oh,
that they didn't come up with that. Yeah, no. Oh, no. That's why I said it's a means of control. Like, that's done on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
It's done on purpose. If you aren't taught how to think critically, because it's a skill, right? You need to practice it. So that happens on purpose. That, like, we don't want you to question this. We just want you to take this information and memorize it. That's not what I believe education should be about. I don't think anyone should be teaching that way. I'm like really trying to make some changes about what education is, but yeah, it's like, it's not good. It's not good. And then we end up with this like friggin' literal fascism happening because people are like, yeah, this sounds fine.
And I see it too. Like I always bring it back to my friends. Like I have a lot of friends who don't know research. They'll tell me something. They're like, "Hey, did you hear about blah blah blah?" And I'm like, "Okay, first of all, where'd you hear that?" And they're like, "I saw it on Instagram." I go, "All right, Instagram is not a valid source of information. I can post whatever I want there." Yeah. No, but like I'm like, "Did you at least Google it afterwards?" And they go, "No, why would I Google it?" I'm like, to maybe check to see if, you know, anything's true. And then one of my friends was telling me recently, because she works with kids, like, and one of the kids she works with, I think he's like a freshman in high school. And he was saying stuff like, "Man, now I gotta take Spanish," because he's a white kid. And he's like, "Man, I gotta take Spanish. I have to learn Spanish so I can get into college, because colleges don't accept white people anymore." And I'm like, "What did you tell this kid?" And she goes, obviously, because she's Mexican, she got really angry about it. I was like, "You should tell him to write a research paper." And she goes, "Well, he knows how to research." I go, "I doubt he knows how to research. I bet you he knows how to Google, why aren't white people allowed in college?" And that's obviously going to give you the answers you want. And that is how we're taught to research throughout, like, your primary schooling, is just look up, basically, your question. Don't look up the other side.
Teach you that?
Basically, it's like, look, if you're looking up something for like an English paper, you have your prompt. It's like, why is this? And so you Google, why is this? You don't Google the other side. You look at the argument for like a paragraph in like a 6-page essay. And I've noticed like I tried to do research in high school. Obviously, I didn't have tools. I didn't have knowledge to how to do it accurately. And so when I got the chance in English classes in college, I took it very seriously. I was like, all right, how do you actually look into things? And I was like, everything I've learned up to this point, no one taught me what a database was in primary school. I was like, there's so much good stuff here. There's like actual credited news articles here that I can look into. There's different websites that I didn't know existed, because Google gives you Wikipedia. Always. And that's what people like bank on, Wikipedia always being true. And Wikipedia has a lot of really good knowledge, but it's not always true.
But you know what is good if you want to look at Wikipedia? Scroll all the way down to see what sources are cited. And then you can click on those and go to the actual sources and read for yourself. Because anyone can write on Wikipedia, and some people know stuff, and some people don't.
True.
It's really bad.
What are your thoughts, Brandon?
On which part?
On any and all of it. There's education, where we're coming, where it's going, kind of things.
I mean, I second everything Lindsay was just saying. I mean, we said a lot just now. So I don't even remember what the original question was.
You know, I feel you. I asked it.
Sorry,
Scott.
No. It's just that you said so much. I think it was a question that took us everywhere. You know what I mean? So, but I second everything you're saying. I mean, and it was just like I said before. I think I had started it off, to be honest. Just that teachers, you know, we just have to do our part as educators. You know what I mean? And I was just having this conversation like the other day. It's just that we're high schools, and it started, what we're talking about started when I was in high school. Actually, the induction of start training students to pass tests rather than actually teaching them how to research and all those different things. So, and that's just what school just became about, was numbers. You know what I mean? And then once these students get to college, that's what they're expecting. So then when you get in front of, and then you have those professors who are continuing that education, but then you have those professors who are like, no, this is how you should do this. And they feel, you got that handful that feel overwhelmed by it and grunt and moan about it, but then you have that other handful that's like, wow, I'm intrigued. And that's the group that you want to like really pull in and share all that knowledge with, because the goal is each one teach one, you dig? So whether they become teachers of themselves or, you know, just pass that knowledge down to someone else. And I think that's just how we, you know, fight that battle.
It seems like too that with at least through primary school, one of the things I noticed was a lot of teachers, not only do they like not teach critical thinking, it's their way or no way. And especially with math, because I was a math person growing up. It was like it just came to me naturally. I figured out how I wanted to solve things. Even if it wasn't what the book told me, I got to the answer. It just may take me like a little bit, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, but I got to the answer. Like I tested into like algebra 2 as a freshman in high school. I was the only freshman in a class full of juniors and seniors. And that first teacher was very much like, you know, show your work. If you show your work, you're good. And so I would show my work and I'd get fine grades throughout that year. Next year, same kind of thing. She's like, just show your work. I would show my work. If I didn't do it her exact way that she showed during her lectures, which I didn't understand, and so I would take my own time to kind of think a process that I could retain better and that worked for me, and then I just had the tools that I could use, she would mark me down like half a point on every single question. So I went from like an A in all my math classes to like a C/D average, because she would take away half of my grades every single time. And either it was, you know, do it her way and get the question wrong because I don't understand her way, or do the question my way, get the question right, but have points taken away. And then when I got to college, and it was a lot more open up, like my teacher, my calculus teacher in college, fantastic person. He was like, he goes, a lot of this math that we're learning, you're not going to do by hand in the future. So say you're a computer science major, which I was. He was like, if you have a way to code out a program that would check these iterations, do it. And so like something like not during tests or anything, you know, tests like trying to test your own knowledge, but just during class lectures. If he was like, hey, here's a problem, you have to go through like 50 iterations, you can use your calculator, use whatever, I would just write a quick code up, do the iterations, and I was done. And he's like, that's teaching you how to use your skills to come to the conclusion that you need for your field versus just getting there. And I've noticed with Common Core too, sorry. I've noticed with Common Core too, like I was saying, my sister is 14, 15. She's in the middle of Common Core. I just dodged Common Core. I was like, the year that I got out of Common Core is when it happened, because I was above in math. So most of my friends had to deal with a few years of it even. And like my sister, she'll come to me and she goes, hey, I don't understand how to do this for math. I'm like, all right, show me, you know, the problem. And I'll show her a way that's like, oh yeah, no, just move these two numbers around and do this thing. And she's like, that's so much easier than what my teacher says, because her teacher's like, all right, you take these numbers, put them in boxes. Now take these boxes, move them over here. Now subtract these two boxes, add these two boxes. I'm like, no, just do this. And then she's taking that to class, and then her teacher will get mad at her.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's kind of ridiculous.
That's bad teaching.
Yeah.
Bad teaching.
100%.
That's not what education is about.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right that there are a lot of people who are in this profession thinking like, but this is me, I'm the king of the room, and
no issues.
what I say, and this is about discipline. And if
Yeah.
you ever are interested in finding out where that term comes from, and the schooling system is designed after prisons, by the way. Foucault's Discipline and Punish. Foucault's not like a super easy read, but I like, after reading that book, I can't even use discipline in a positive light. And to know that schools are designed to control people based on the format of the prison system is like gross. And so unless you have educators who are specifically trying to dismantle these really, I keep trying to almost say very bad words, these really messed up systems, you need to actively be working against what the system is supposed to be, because the system was designed for certain people to act in a certain way. It was never meant for everyone who's a part of it now, and it was never meant to like really actually foster and cultivate knowledge and growth. It's designed for control. And so if you're just there to be controlling a group of people, you're doing it wrong, and boo.
Thoughts, Brandon?
I agree. When you come across a class like that, get out.
Yep.
Get out. You don't. If you can get out of a class like that, do it.
Funny story about that. Oh, go ahead, Lindsay. Go ahead.
I was gonna say this is like a perfect example of what hip hop culture teaches us, that we're here for a common goal. We're serving a common purpose. Like if you're in a cipher together, we all need to have like a general sort of shared understanding of like what this cipher is about, and like we're grooving to the same music, but that you're still there celebrating people's different approaches to doing the same work, which is to contribute to each other and to like embody this particular groove that we're all sharing, right? And so if you translate that knowledge into the classroom, then you have room to recognize like difference is not a pathology, it's a positive, and you can celebrate difference and diversity. And again, I don't only mean diversity to be like racial, ethnic diversity, but like you come from an understanding that that can be celebrated. And there are times that as an educator, I will explain, I like to be really transparent with my students, like, okay, look, I'm fine with y'all like using some less formal academic language in your writing, as long as you're mindful about those choices. But you need to know when you go into other classrooms, other teachers are not going to be cool about that. So I want you to be able to practice these skills as well, so you have them in your pocket. But I also am going to talk to you about code switching, and so you can be knowledgeable about why you're making those choices. And if you're feeling brave when you get into that other class, tell that teacher that they can go screw it, because what they're doing is racist. But like, there are times where I feel I need to teach a particular skill because the academy is going to expect that of the students. So like maybe you like, but if I were that teacher and there was a reason that you needed to learn that particular method, I would have explained to you why it's important for you to know that particular method and why. And also, if I thought it was bullshit, I would tell you that, but here's why you still need to know it, because this exam that you're going to have to take is going to make sure that you know this, or whatever. But it kind of just sounds like that teacher is a bad teacher. Hi, teacher, I hope you hear this. You should not be teaching.
I mean, it happens. It happens in dance too, also, because certain programs only teach you how to create in this specific way, and then students are stuck. Or never use music. Music is bad. Never use music, and just create movement. And as we were saying earlier about, oh man, I should really listen to the music, because then it created a different way of movement for me. So you got a lot of dancers, going through 4 years of this miseducation, and thinking that's the only way, the way to create, and that's law. So then what happens? They get jobs and they keep teaching that same wrong way of teaching. So it just brings me back to, you know what I mean? And you know, a lot of these students come to me so frustrated, you know what I mean? Or they'll take my class and then I'm teaching them how to create in this whole different way. And I make it a point to do that because I know it's the other part is happening in other classes. So that if they come take me, then I know that, all right, I'm giving them this other way of learning, this other way of how to create this movement, all these different ways to think about creating movement. And it's okay to use music because if you use it in this way, if it makes sense, if it's within the context of what you're trying to do. So we just have to do the ones that are here. We just, you know, it makes our job, may make our job that much harder or feel like we have to do that much more work, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And worth also saying that when we're talking about those specific examples, those specific examples in dance, that's coming from institutionalized racism, which is not to necessarily say that each of those teachers is a racist, although racism is more complicated than that. We could have a whole conversation about what it means to be anti-racist, but you're clearly not anti-racist. Anyway, but that in the academy, dance programs come out of ballet and modern. They are specifically Eurocentric and like Western, and they value those practices. So unless you have people actively dismantling those structures that have always been in place, you're only gonna always continue to reify that Eurocentric practices and Western, whatever, I think hip hop's also Western, but whatever, like are more important or higher art than practices coming out of Africanist aesthetics or other types of dance practices, which would be racistly called world dances because what dance is not of the world. But that is a specific devaluing, of Africanist aesthetics that comes out of our country's racist history. That's like really worth challenging people because you're just upholding a racist system for no reason, no legitimate reason.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I know we've been talking a lot about, like, you know, the downsides to everything going on, but I have a question, you know, to end on a lighter note. How often do you get students that like surprise you in a good way, and like in what was a memorable experience with a student where you're like, oh, this was dope?
All the time. I'm always moved by the students in my class. I'm always impressed by them. Yes, I'm gonna call you out for whining, but some of those people about like having to work and learn, but some of those students that I called out for doing that were some of my favorite students. Like that wasn't like, oh, this horrible person, get out of my classroom. I am so privileged every day to get to do this thing that I love doing, that even though, yes, I'm still trying to dismantle the systems, I love being in the classroom, even if it's virtual, with the students and seeing them grow. And that sounds so freaking hokey, but even like in the fall, I was teaching in this like really messed up situation because I was a TA, I didn't have control over it, a teaching assistant, even though I was the only teacher. But it was a really messed up situation, especially for during COVID. It was way too much work for the TAs. It was way too much work for the undergrads. And so even in this like messed up situation, teaching freaking beginning writing, which I had never taught, I still had such a great time interacting with those students, even teaching a thing that I felt weird about, even in this messed up situation, that there were so many moments to celebrate. And even at the end of the term, like we all, like the students love me, I love the students back. And I'm not just saying that like they told me we had a good relationship. Also because we were in this messed up situation, I didn't follow the rules that I thought were unfair to them. I told them why we were breaking some rules and why. And I was really transparent about all this stuff, and they appreciated me advocating on their behalf and like working with me and the extra work that I put in to help them through. Anyway, I'm rambling again, but I think that was really an important moment for me, because as much as I love teaching dance classes and there's always dope students and we always have a good time, even when sometimes you're whiny, but not you specifically, and I call you out on that, it's always great. But even in this moment, this was like, okay, this is not even material that I normally would teach. This is a particularly bad setup for teaching. And it still was so great to be in the classroom with those students and watching their writing improve, not just their dancing. Like, I get so much out of that all the time. All the time. All the time.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I'll second that. I think you used the word surprised, and I'm not surprised. I expect it, because that's the gig. I'm supposed to be at the end of this quarter or semester, I'm supposed to see you better than what you came in with, because that's my job. I tell students all the time when they come into my class, they're like, oh my God, I don't know how to dance. I don't know my left foot from my right foot. That's all right, because when you leave here, you're gonna know your left foot from your right foot. You know what I mean? Because that's my job to do that. So I'm not surprised. I'm surprised if I go a semester and everybody's the same way they came in. Then I'm surprised. You dig what I'm saying? But no, I'm always excited about, the end result. You know what I mean? And I love the students that come in that are difficult or don't know how to do it. You know what I mean? Because it makes me do my job. You know what I mean? And then I learn about me and different ways that I can get this person to do this thing that I'm asking them to do. I've been saying for a long time, because I've ran into students who went and got teaching jobs that should never get a teaching job in dance. And I tell, I say all the time, like, any dancer can get in front of a group of dancers and say, repeat what I do, and it'll look good. That's fine. That doesn't make you a teacher. What makes you a teacher is getting in front of this group of people that don't know anything about the thing that you're trying to teach them. And then by the end of that semester or quarter, they can comprehend it. They're doing the thing you asked them to do. They're better than what they came in with. That's a teacher. That's the gig.
Yeah, I respect that. Well, it looks like our time is just about up. So to wrap things up, I asked every time. It's become a trend and no one ever expects it. Any closing words that you'd like to say? Brandon, start with you.
I didn't have any closing words, right? But I did. I've been watching your background, and then you mentioned something, because I see your Drink Champs aesthetic back there. Do you watch Drink Champs podcast?
No, never heard of it.
It's a hip hop podcast, bro. You gotta watch Drink Champs.
I'll take a look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, watch Drink Champs. But it's a hip hop podcast, and a lot of hip hop artists come on that joint. So I was gonna ask you, and I see you said you're a mixologist.
Yeah. Or
you do some mixing. Are you a mixologist? Would you say you're a mixologist?
I'm a wannabe mixologist. We're not there yet, but we're getting there.
What's your drink? What's your favorite drink that you make?
So my favorite drink that I make, it's a combination of it's spiced rum, apple moonshine, honey, and a little bit of simple syrup. And it's a very cinnamony drink. Like, it has like a nice little cinnamony kick, but the honey and the simple syrup really like levels it out to make it like not overwhelming, because moonshine's known for being overwhelming. And so cutting that back made it real nice. It took me like a cool like 8 or 9 tries on different nights, because the moonshine would just hit a little harder. I'm like, all right, I need to take a break. But yeah, no, it's probably my favorite that I make.
Did you create that?
Yeah, I came up with that myself.
Did you give it a name?
Yeah, I called it the kicker.
Nice. Maybe one day we'll get to try that.
I'm down to mix whenever. Just let me know. All right, what about you, Lindsay? Your last words.
I will say something, but then Brandon, you gotta say something after me because he always has like a moment. I would say, like, especially as a white person participating in this culture, I'm just gonna say, if you're interested in like one piece of it, like you think you like the way this looks, invest the time and energy to find out more about the culture. And you don't get to participate in Black culture without caring about the community of people who created and continue to create it. So you gotta give a crap about Black folks too. But now you need to say something like lighter and really romantic.
No, that was good, man. That was good. I don't even know. Normally, I'm really good at that, but I think that was a good note to end on. I second all of that you said. One thing I will say is that, man, I want to push this. What you got going on here? I like this platform. I wish I would have known more about it. I wish I would have known, like, and that's probably my fault. That the name of it, because I would have been pushing this thing to watch for people to, like, yo, tune in 4:00. This is about to happen. You know what I mean? So shoot me, like, you know, everything about it, so I can start telling people on my platform and on what I do, yo, tune into this, because this brother got some stuff going on. So I want to support, you know what I'm saying? Which is part of the culture. I want to support you as much as we can, man, because I had a lot of fun with this, and this was dope. And I think more people should be on this and don't give up. Every person, every host, every artist, everything, you know, always start out with 1 or 2 viewers. You know what I'm saying? But without struggle, there's no progress.
Exactly.
So keep it going, brother, because you're a bright brother, and man, I see you just sit here talking to you. I can see you going real far.
Appreciate it, really. All right. Anything you'd like to, like, plug? Any, like, social media that you guys have that you'd like? I don't know. I know we were just talking about how we don't really use social media, but I gotta ask.
But we gotta get into it. We gotta do it though, because that's the way. You gotta do it. It's the way.
Follow my cat on Instagram.
What's your cat's handle on Instagram?
I'm joking.
No, go ahead, plug it.
No, I'm joking.
Plug it. Plug it, or I'm gonna go find it and then plug it before we're done. Save me some work.
It's Masked Bandit Calico with periods in between.
There we go.
I'm talented, Brandon.
As I've already said, I'm too old to be good at social media, so it's pretty basic. Sorry.
That's fair.
I'm Talented Brandon J on Instagram and YouTube. So just come check me out.
Awesome. And thank you all for watching another episode of this, and we'll catch you guys again in 2 weeks for someone else. I'll see you all later.
Surprise.
In peace.
Thank you so much.